So what we're going to have a look at now is using the dose volume histogram to determine whether our plan's intolerant. So we already know from reviewing the isodoses that this plan isn't, and as I said on the previous video, what we would do is go away and sort that out. I'm not going to do that on this video because I don't necessarily want to have a clinically acceptable plan, because I want to leave you something to have a think about. So as I said, we can eyeball the isodoses and that tells us a lot of the story, but it doesn't tell us the whole story. So what I've got here is a clinical protocol from a department, and we can see here that it tells us our tolerances for our organs at risk. So we've got the rectum, the bladder, and we've got a small bowel as well, which it says is not always required. So typically we would do that if we were doing IMRT. So quite importantly, I think this is a really nicely written protocol, so it tells us what we need to contour in terms of what the rectum is, and then we've got these numbers here. So let's just refresh our memories about what these mean. So V40 grey, less than 70%, means that less than 70% of the rectum should receive 40 grey or more. V50 less than 60, less than 60% of the rectum should receive 50 grey or more. So we could roughly do that, I suppose, by putting the 40 grey or the 50 grey isodose on, but we want to be a bit more accurate than that. So we're going to use this dose volume histogram, or DVH. So in the top right hand corner, pane, right click, show dose volume histogram, and let's just turn everything off for the moment, and I'm just going to make that bigger. So we can see here that we've got the dose on this axis here and here, and then the percentage of the structure on this axis here. So this and this are exactly the same thing, but one's displayed in absolute dose, one's displayed in percentage dose, and we can see here that 100% is up to our 76 grey, and our ratio of total structure here. And then we can turn our volumes on by clicking the tick boxes here, so we can see what all of our various structures are getting. And we can see that the screen can get pretty busy when we start turning everything on, so we can change the colours of those. But what I would do is only turn on the structures that we actually need, the ones that we're looking at that time. Ideally what we want is our GTV and PTV, our target structures, to as much as possible this 100%, the high dose region, and then 95, and then drop off really steeply with the small tail, which then tells us that we don't have any hotspots. And then our organs at risk, ideally we want to drop off as quickly as we can, and that would tell us that we're not delivering a lot of dose to the organs at risk. So for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to look up my rectum, and then I'll leave you to have a think about how you would look up the other structures. So let's have a look at our rectum then. So it says V40 less than 70%. So again, we could roughly eyeball this by going, there's about 40 across there and looking across, and we can see about 50% would be the answer, but that's not very accurate. So as ever with Eclipse, there's a nice little tool that allows us to do that more accurately. So if we right click and show crosshairs, it brings up this little crosshair here, and so we can follow the line by holding down the left mouse, and as we do that we can track along and find 40 grey. So if we bring that back up again, so there's 40 grey there, so across, and 53, so we can see that we're getting 53%, so that's less than 70%, so we're happy with that. And let's just look at the other one in order to just show you again. So V50 less than 60, so I'm going to get my crosshair, go down to where 50 is, again that's about there, and we can just tweak that. You can see it does it to quite a few decimal places, so that's accurate enough for what we need. And we can see there that's 43%, so 44% of the rectum is getting 50 grey or more, and we can see the tolerance is 60, so again we're in tolerance with that. So we would work our way through these lists of constraints to see if we're meeting those, and I'll leave you to have a think about how you would do that for the rest of them. But in terms of dose to the PTV, you may well see on a clinical protocol that it talks around the D98 or the D50 or the D2, and so we're talking about how much 98% of the PTV is getting, how much 50% of the PTV getting, and how much is 2%. So it would be the other way round. So again, I'm not going to show you the answer, but have a think about how you would look up the D98, the D50 and the D2 for this patient. And again, I would recommend that you write those down, and we can use them for comparisons.